Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to look at some incredible inventions that promise to completely change our world. But they all have one thing in common. They vanished. So we have to ask a pretty serious question. Was our future deliberately altered by those in power?
Here's how we're going to break it down today. We'll start by setting the scene. Then we'll dive into some really fascinating case studies, first in energy, then in the stuff we buy every day. We'll see if a pattern emerges, a kind of playbook, and then we'll try to figure out what the true cost of all this might be.
So let's be clear, this isn't about some cool ideas that just didn't pan out. This is an investigation into technologies that, by all accounts, actually worked, and then poof, they were gone.
We're going to explore a really controversial claim here, that the progress we see isn't some straight, natural line. The argument is that it's been carefully managed, even held back, all in the name of profit and control. Let's take a look at the evidence behind this theory. All right, our investigation starts with the biggest industry of them all, energy. This is where we find some of the most compelling and, frankly, shocking exhibits in this case of a possible erased future. First up, the legendary Nikola Tesla and his Wardenclyffe Tower. Now, his vision was staggering. This wasn't just a big tower. It was meant to be the start of a global, wireless grid of free, unlimited electricity for everyone. Imagine that. A world where power companies are totally obsolete. But here's the catch. This one, simple question from his main funder, JP Morgan, supposedly revealed the fatal flaw, not in the technology, but in the business model. How do you make money off of something that's free? The story goes, this idea of unmetered power was seen as a direct threat.
And you can see exactly what happened next. Almost as soon as Tesla made his true intentions clear, the money dried up. The project stalled, and by 1917, the dream was literally torn down for scrap.
Okay, now fast forward a few decades, another potential energy revolution pops up. This time, it's an inventor named Stanley Meyer, and he claimed he built a dune buggy that ran on water, just plain water, which it could supposedly split into hydrogen and oxygen on the fly for fuel. And this is where the story gets really, really dark. After a dinner meeting with potential investors, Myers suddenly ran outside, claiming he'd been poisoned. He collapsed and died. Now, the official report said it was a brain aneurysm. But what's so striking is what happened after he died. It's like his work was systematically erased. The prototype buggy vanished, the patents were left to expire, and key parts of his schematics were missing, making it impossible for anyone else to replicate what he did. It all just disappeared. Now, you might be thinking these are just old, unverified stories. Well, let's talk about something much more recent and much better documented, the GM EV1. Back in the 90s, this was it. The future. A quiet, fast, mass-produced electric car that its drivers absolutely loved. But then something bizarre happened. Despite its popularity, GM decided to pull the plug. And they didn't just stop making them. They actively recalled every single one, took them away from their drivers, many of whom begged to keep them, and then shipped them out to the desert to be crushed into scrap. So why on earth would they do that? Well, the evidence strongly suggests the EV1 wasn't a business failure. It was a threat to gas sales, to the auto parts and repair industry, and to the dealership model. It was, perhaps, just too good. So we've seen this happen with energy, but the theory argues this pattern of suppression goes even further, that it's baked into the very things we buy and use every single day. They call it planned obsolescence. Just take a look at this. It's a light bulb, but it's been burning in a fire station almost continuously since 1901, for over 120 years. It's proof that we knew, a long time ago, how to make things that last. And that idea, it flies directly in the face of this modern business strategy, designing products to break down or become obsolete so that you, the consumer, have to go out and buy another one. The origin story for this, according to proponents of the theory, goes back to something called the Phoebus Cartel in 1924. That's when all the major light bulb manufacturers supposedly got together and secretly agreed to limit the lifespan of their bulbs to about 1,000 hours, purely to drive up sales, a business model that you could argue is still very much alive today. But this idea of putting profits ahead of progress gets a lot scarier when you move into healthcare. Take the story of the Neuroscope. This was a device developed back in 2009 that could supposedly detect diseases like cancer just by reading a person's biofrequency, months or even years before symptoms showed up.
And just like with Tesla's tower, a single question from a pharmaceutical executive during a demo might have sealed its fate. Because if this thing worked, it posed a massive threat to the multi-billion-dollar industry of routine medical screenings and diagnostics.
And does this sound familiar? Shortly after that demonstration, the whole project was systematically taken apart, not with a bang, but with bureaucracy. Licenses suspended, servers seized, engineers deported, until the technology was eventually bought up by a shell company and completely buried. So when you step back and look at all these different stories together, Tesla's tower, Meyer's water car, the EV1, that light bulb, the neuroscope, they stop looking like random, isolated incidents, don't they? A chilling pattern starts to emerge.
And this really gets to the heart of the theory. You can almost map it out. There seems to be this repeatable 5-step playbook for suppression. A revolutionary idea appears, it threatens the status quo, and then it's systematically neutralized. Not because it didn't work, but because its success was a threat to powerful people. So what's the big deal? What was the real cost here? According to the source, it's not just about a few cool gadgets. It's about a whole different future we might have had. A future with clean energy, with products that lasted, with the ability to catch diseases before they could take hold. A cleaner, healthier, more efficient world that was, perhaps, dismantled for profit.
And that's the real kicker, isn't it? If these stories have any truth to them, the tragedy isn't that these technologies failed. The real tragedy is that they might have worked. Which leaves us all with one final, pretty unsettling thought to take away. If these inventions were buried, what else is out there?